Hello everyone, my name is Karen Hunt, the Mayor of the City of Coppell. 2020 has certainly been a very unforgettable year. Individually and together, we have endured so much throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. But as we always do in Coppell, we continue with a positive attitude. We adapt and we keep moving ahead and we meet each and every challenge. Throughout the pandemic, delivery methods for many city services were modified to ensure the safety of our citizens and our staff. I am so proud and thankful of our residents and city staff for their extraordinary efforts during these challenging times. I am also very deeply grateful to our first responders and healthcare professionals for what they have done by putting their lives on the line to protect and care for us. Everyone has had to adjust to this so-called new normal. I am that rare person that has actually been able to go into the office every day. But many people, including city staff, continue to work remotely or on new schedules. Thanks to technology, we have adjusted and adapted to ensure that we continue to offer high-level services that our residents and our businesses expect. So how is the City of Coppell doing? Well, I thought we would do something very 2020 and check in with staff via video conference. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today as we discuss our changes and our progress in 2020.
Hey everybody, how are you doing? Glad you're doing
good. 2020 has certainly been a unique year. From the initial closing of our buildings, playgrounds, and sports fields to the public in early April, to the delayed completion and opening of our brand new art center, we adapted and safely invited the public back in slowly throughout the year. Tiffany, let's start with you and Parks and Rec. As we continued to reopen, the operations were a bit different, but our community services are still second to none. Tiffany?
All right. In 2020, we have adapted our approach and the way that we engage with the community in a lot of ways. We did briefly close our facilities from March to May of this year, but when we reopened, we did it in a thoughtful, safe, and very phased way. Right now, we're offering the services that we can offer safely, so tennis court rentals, fitness options like cardio machines and weights at the core, as well as outdoor nature education at the Biodiversity Education Center. All of our parks remained open throughout our facility closures, and they have become, even more than they already were, a place for residents to recreate safely and just get outside and find some peace and calm. With special events, as it hasn't been safe to hold large gatherings, we have reimagined many of the things that we're used to doing. We canceled some events, but we've also found new ways to engage and connect with residents. For Independence Day, we held an outdoor decorating contest to celebrate Coppell Red, White, and Views. We had over 50 homes and businesses participate, and it was just a really fun way to get the community engaged through decorating their houses and also just get people outside, walking around or driving around to look at all of the displays that people had put together. This fall, we also held virtual trivia nights and had about 250 people participate over 4 weeks. And in October, we held Kaleidoscope virtually and our first ever drive-through event, our Halloween Candy Cruise, which had a great response. We had about hundreds of cars come through the parking lot to receive candy from city departments and local businesses. So overall, even though things have looked different, we have still remained able to find connections with the community just in a different but safe way. 2020 had many bright spots for us as well. We became an NRPA Gold Medal finalist for the second year in a row. While we didn't take home the Grand Plaque this year, we are very honored to be a finalist. We were one of 16 Parks and Recreation agencies in the U.S. and the top 4 in our population size. We also received our CAPRA reaccreditation this year. CAPRA is the only national accreditation for Parks and Recreation agencies, and it really measures overall the agency's quality of operation, management, and service to the community. Overall, we saw a lot of great things happen for the department, and we're just excited for what 2021 will bring.
Thank you, Tiffany. In addition to all the other excitement for 2020, our beautiful Coppell Art Center is now complete. We had to delay the grand opening, but Alex and his team have used this extra time to involve the community more than ever. Alex, tell us more.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, you know, when we were built, it wasn't just to put on shows. Our core mission was to bring people together. And so that's what we've done even during these extraordinary circumstances of COVID. Some of those ways have been with the drive-in movies that we did over the summer and through the fall, as well as being a polling location for the first time and having people come vote in this historic election. And then taking an empty space like our black box, which is normally used for smaller intimate shows, and turning that into a digital game room that's safe for young families. That's kind of the theme, is how can we be useful? How can we provide value to our community? And we all know one day that things are going to get back more to that normal, which will have people in the seats and we can all enjoy the performances of our local art groups, as well as touring shows and special events like weddings. We just got to take it day by day.
Thank you, Alex. Speaking of construction projects that are wrapping up, crews have continued to work to improve city infrastructure. How exciting is it to have our Freeport Parkway project complete? Kent, can you give us an update on our progress and what we have to expect next?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We are complete on Freeport Parkway, or at least substantially complete. Got a little bit more cleanup to take care of. We also completed the reconstruction of Parkway Boulevard this year, which is also exciting. Finally, we completed the reconstruction of Oak Grove, which is a residential street off of Coppell Road. What we have coming up in the next year, we've already started reconstruction of Airline, and we started that in November. We will be complete this winter, or winter of 2021. Just as a reminder, the traffic is one way. Probably the big project I need to hit on is the Beltline reconstruction project. We are set to start reconstruction of Beltline between Southwestern and LBJ beginning early this coming summer, so early summer of 2021. We expect it to take between 12 and 15 months to reconstruct. And during construction, we'll be down to 3 lanes. So that's 1 lane in each direction and then a center lane for turning traffic. So that's a big project. And then we've got a utility project, Sandy Lake Lift Station. We'll be reconstructing it beginning this fall. That's a 12 to 15 month project to complete. And you know, Mayor, throughout the year, we've continued to operate and maintain the city's infrastructure so that the residents and businesses had all the quality of life services they need, including water, sewer, drainage, streets, and traffic. We also continued to work on and complete the projects that I just described. But what I'm probably most proud of is just the service and the teamwork and the innovation exhibited by staff with the support of council throughout the year and continuing to provide those community well-being through the work that we do. So thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to provide that update, and I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you, Kent. Progress is also being made on our trail system. With more and more people going outside, John, can you give us an update on our additional options that have been added in 2020?
Thank you, Mayor. We have made tremendous progress on our trail system in 2020. I do have several projects I'd like to run through. The first one is the Moore Road bike lanes. We added bike lanes in the spring of 2020. They were installed on River Chase Drive, Fairway Drive, and Moore Road. All said and done, we were able to add 3.3 miles of bike lanes with that project. The next project that we did was the Andy Brown West Coppell High School Connector Trail. What this is a trail that connects the Andy Brown West Park over to the high school. It did not add very many miles to our trail, but it was a critical connection for safe routes to school. The next project I would like to update on is the Parkway Boulevard Street project. We actually had a half a mile of side path trail included in that project. It's on the north side of Parkway from Moore Road west to the Andy Brown East Park. The final two projects I would like to update the community on is the MacArthur Boulevard Trail project. This is a much needed trail project on the east side of Coppell. It starts at DeForest Road on the north side of Coppell. It runs all the way to River Chase Drive. This is 2.1 miles of side path. Again, it was much needed on the east side of Coppell. We don't have many trails over there. This will allow the people that live on the east side of Coppell access to the Annie Brown Park system and the rest of our trail system. And then the last project is the Freeport Parkway Road project, actually included a side path as well. This side path will start at Bethel Road and it will run all the way to Wrangler Drive. The trail system is used heavily now during the pandemic. We have continued to add to the trail system. It's open, it's safe, and it's a good outlet for the community to get out on the trail system. We hope to see you out on the trails soon.
Thank you, John. You know that people are constantly asking about our trails, so thank you for everything that you do. Now, progress is also being made on our new Fire Station 4. Chief Richardson, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hunt. Yes, the fire department is extremely excited about the addition of Fire Station number 4. You know that this project has been in the works for several years now. We began construction about this time last year. We expected a 12-month construction time, and it looks like we're going to be on time and on budget with the fire station facility. But we've also hired all of the firefighters to go in the fire station, have all been hired. The fire truck that's going to be assigned to the Fire Station number 4 has also been ordered and received. And so we're looking to have some type of a grand opening ceremony, probably late January, early February, to share with the community the facility, do some virtual walkthroughs, and have some opportunities to see the final result and how things have turned out. The other exciting thing for us this year was the other 3 fire stations had apparatus that were due for replacement, and our elected officials approved for us to move forward with that, and we replaced, we call them the triplets. There's 3 new fire trucks rolling around town. We just completed receiving them and putting them in service this last month. The other thing that kept us really busy this year, of course, is the pandemic response, and the amount of pride and there was just a huge sense of duty from our staff to perform during this difficult time. You know, there's hazards, there's fear, there's unknown, but all of the fire department's members stepped up and performed their duties without hesitation for their own safety. And now, as the rest of the area of the world has transitioned to dealing with social distancing and quarantining and isolation and remote work and all things that go with that, the members of the fire department reported for duty every day. There was no waiver in service 24/7. We had to make some changes in how we do business, but there was no reduction in services whatsoever. And for that, it's been a proud moment for us to be able to maintain that level of service to our community. So yes, this has been an extremely busy year for not just the fire department, but for the rest of the city.
It is so exciting to have a new fire station, and I know it will be a huge asset for our city for many, many years to come. Another asset that is unique to Coppell is our Life Safety Park, and the fun and education did continue in 2020. Gina, you didn't slow down in 2020, did you?
That's right, Mayor. We did not slow down at all. We began 2020 with lots of field trips. Our meeting space was being utilized. We were very busy. And then in March, we held our spring break classes like normal. They were well attended. And shortly after is when our Emergency Operations Center was activated. The Emergency Operations Center is located at Life Safety Park. So we had to halt our educational classes for the safety of the staff that was working at the Emergency Operations Center during that time. Our staff was able to take roles in the Emergency Operations Center, so we were still coming to the office full time and were able to help out in that capacity. We also provided educational bags, goodie bags to residents that were home. They were fire and life safety educational bags or activity bags that they could do at their home. So we were still able to provide safety education even though we weren't having classes during that time. The Emergency Operations Center was deactivated before summer. So we began having classes again during June and July at a 50% capacity. And even with the reduced capacity, they were well attended by the residents. So we were happy to be able to provide the same great education that we've provided in past years. We had to get a little creative when school started back up in the fall. Coppell ISD is not taking field trips at this time. So we've provided them with online resources. We've had several firefighters read fire and life safety education books that we provided that they can show to the kids that are doing face-to-face and virtual learning. We also held our college safety course. This year we had to do it via Zoom, but we were glad we were still able to provide the incoming freshmen with the knowledge that they'll need when they head off to campus. We also have continued to hold our monthly CPR classes. They've been well attended by the residents, even though we've been at a reduced capacity. We also held our fire extinguisher training class that we do every year before the holidays, so residents are prepared before the big cooking season. Our staff has continued to do car seat inspections and provide education to new parents during this time as well. And even with the pandemic, we've had several thousands of visitors to Life Safety Park during this year. In 2021, we're hopeful that the school district will start taking field trips and we can get those large groups of kids out here again, of course with extra safety precautions. And we'll just continue to provide the great safety customer service that we've done in the past, both external and internally. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Gina. You and your team really had to adapt to safely providing the educational programs. Thank you again. Dennis, your library team had to work to adapt as well. Please tell us how you met all of the challenges and talk about the new protocols that are in place.
Absolutely, Mayor, you're correct. Like many of our other departments, we had to respond pretty quickly to the pressures of the pandemic. After we closed our doors to the public in March, we immediately transitioned a lot of our formerly in-person programs to a virtual format. And we actually moved a lot of our early literacy programs to an asynchronous format because we recognized that a lot of families suddenly found themselves in a situation where they needed to continue learning and literacy activities but didn't want another piece of screen time. So that was part of our decision behind that. Through late spring and early summer, we worked to gradually reinstate our on-site services, beginning with collection access through holds pickup, first through curbside and then later in the lobby. And then later added appointments for computer use and document services, study tables, and then eventually we're able to set up appointments for folks to come in and browse the collection like they used to, while at every point looking out for the health and safety of our public and of our staff. Our summer programs actually reached about 50% more participants than we had in previous years, which was a pleasant surprise, through our grab-and-go bags and our asynchronous programs online. We also launched our World Languages collection in the fall through the assistance of a Texas Book Festival grant, and this allowed us to expand the linguistic scope of our material collections to include materials in Spanish, French, Hindi, and Chinese. And lastly, we're really proud of a range of programs that we put on this year that continue to engage the community on really important topics. We continued our Meet Your Neighbor series with a panel discussion in July on personal experiences with racism as told by Coppell residents. And the public response to this program led us to develop 2 follow-ups in the fall, one on racial equity in partnership with the Institute for Urban Policy Research at UTD, and another on racism and policing in partnership with our own Denny Barton from the Coppell Police Department.
Thank you, Dennis. Speaking of our police department, Chief Barton, we had to cancel our nationally recognized National Night Out in 2020, one of my favorite events. But that didn't stop the community from supporting our police. Tell us more about that.
Thank you, Mayor. 2020 has turned out to be a very unusual year, not just at the police department, but the entire world. We did have to cancel National Night Out this year, which was heartbreaking, but we did get a lot of support and feedback from the community on that decision. Earlier this year when COVID broke out in March, everything changed in the world and a lot of things changed in the police department. Our number one goal was to stay safe. We still had to continue to work. Our officers continued to respond to calls for service. And then in the summer we had demonstrations break out across the country in protest of police. But overall the protests were about police reform and police procedures. I was happy to tell a lot of the groups that were demanding change throughout the police departments that we had already implemented those changes years and years ago. But we did do some soul searching, and we took a deep, hard look at how we do police this community, how we serve the citizens, how we serve our people passing through, and we're committed to making even more changes. In 2021, the Coppell Police Department plans to roll out an annual strategic plan in how we are going to serve this community. We're not here to police you, we're here to serve you. And that's how we want our officers to behave, and that's the way we want our police officers to do their jobs. The support that you have shown us this year, the amount of PPE that came in was overwhelming. We also received unbelievable support in the forms of cards and letters and food that came ever since March. It's just continued to flow in. And I can't thank you enough, and the police department cannot thank you enough for all that support. Hopefully in 2021, life will get back to normal and we can get out and about like we used to. And the police department is committed to paying you back for everything you did for us.
Thank you, Chief Barden. Now let's switch to the business side of things. COVID-19 had a major impact on businesses across the globe and here in Coppell. Mindy, can you tell us how the businesses in Coppell were affected?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Just like businesses across the nation, Coppell businesses have struggled during these challenging times. The city implemented several Buy in Coppell programs to help support Coppell businesses. Some of those programs included a banner program, a business scavenger hunt, a business and restaurant bingo, and a few holiday shopping contests. Council also allowed for a moratorium on enforcement for on-premise temporary signs. That allowed for the businesses to advertise that they are open to patrons passing by. And that moratorium is currently scheduled to expire at the end of June of 2021. Probably the most impactful support the city provided came through business assistance grants. City Council generously allocated the majority of the Coppell Cares funds to business assistance grants in 2020. Those 3 grant programs that were approved by City Council included a restaurant assistance grant, a business retrofit grant, and a business rent/mortgage assistance grant. Through these 3 programs, the city was able to approve 102 applications for Coppell businesses and awarded a total of $1,099,090 in grants to businesses.
Thank you, Mindy. The work that your group has done is greatly appreciated. I've also gotten a lot of questions about the impact that COVID-19 has had on the city finances and our tax base. I am pleased to say that because of sound financial planning, our city was well poised for 2020. Jennifer and Casey, I'm going to turn this meeting over to you now.
Okay, sorry everyone, I was on mute. Can everybody hear me now? Awesome. So what I was starting to say was the budget process for fiscal year 21 looked totally different than it ever has, and not just because the pandemic pushed everything virtual. The state legislature passed a revenue restriction that went into effect with the 21 budget, and the comptroller proposed a rule that redistributes sales tax revenues across the state. These major changes caused staff to essentially go back to the drawing board and scrub their annual budget requests. That scrutiny ended up yielding a 13% reduction of the city's total expenditures and allowed us to lower the tax rate. The reductions that the staff focused on were those that impacted citizens the least, meaning everyone looked at what they could do to keep our service levels at that high quality that is expected. Due to the lingering effects of the pandemic, we were able to lower expenditures relating to public events and look at lower cost virtual programming options. We were able to reduce staff training in favor of online offerings and elongate some of our infrastructure maintenance schedules due to the lower usage. The city also froze vacant positions and put a hold on various capital equipment purchases to help lower the budget. So, in addition to the work that we put into the numbers, the change in legislature also altered our schedule to compile the budget itself. Staff now starts crafting their budget requests at the beginning of February. We're holding budget workshops as early as May and continuing those into July. And we plan an adoption each year now for August. The new schedule started with the fiscal year 21 budget, but COVID threw a wrench in our plans. Staff had to develop their budgets virtually, and council held all of the budget workshops and public hearings via Zoom, just like today. We weren't the only ones affected by the pandemic. The appraisal districts, they're the ones that actually give us the values. For the first time ever, they release certified estimated values. A normal certified property valuation is used to calculate a tax rate and finalize our budget. Those numbers weren't released until over a month later than normal, holding up our entire schedule. Just one of those other unexpected things that we saw because of the pandemic. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, our Director of Finance, and she's going to talk more about how the pandemic impacted our financial operations.
Thank you, Casey. The Finance Department did have to make some changes in response to COVID concerns. The first thing we did was that we split the department into two different teams, and this was for business continuity, just to make sure that if someone on one team did get sick, that the other team could continue the operations. We still continued to provide all of our services, just in a little bit different manner. Utility billing, they were still able to process the billings and process payments. We issued bonds earlier in the spring, and we were able to maintain the city's AAA bond rating with both rating agencies. And what they considered was that we had plans in place regarding the reduced revenues and how we were going to address those needs. We processed over $2 million in CARES funding that we received from Dallas County. We did submit our budget document to the Government Finance Officers Association for a Distinguished Budget Award for the 12th year now. We're still waiting on those results, but we were able to send that budget in to be considered. And we did get informed that our comprehensive annual financial report did receive the award, the Certificate of Achievement, for the 31st year. With everything that was going on, I am still very proud of our department for all the things that we were able to accomplish.
Thank you, Casey and Jennifer. Lastly, I would like to turn this over to our City Manager, Mike Land. Mike, I know it's been quite a year for you and your team. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the time that you've given us to talk a little bit about what we've been doing as an organization. Yes, COVID obviously is the big momentous occasion of 2020. And this year, with the help of our Assistant Community Development Director, Louis Rahil, we've done some great things on behalf of serving the community in COVID. So I'd like to turn it over to Louis now to have him explain what we've done this past year.
Thank you, Mike. As you know, as Assistant Director of Community Development, I have a lot of responsibilities. But there is one responsibility that I take more seriously than others. It's protecting public health. Early in March, we knew that COVID-19 was going to be a challenge. But our objectives were very clear. How can we protect our residents and business community? And how also can we protect our workforce to provide services to these residents? And we went to work. From day one, we worked together as a team. We talked to our partners in the federal government, state, and the county to ensure that we provide our residents with information in a timely manner, and also provide them with a free access to COVID-19 testing. And we are proud to say we are one of the first cities in North Texas to provide COVID-19 testing for their residents. We also knew that our businesses, specifically restaurants and daycares, wanted us to play a bigger role and a different role than usual. We usually act as inspectors, but this time was different. They wanted us to be advisors. How can we help them keep their businesses open, but also how can we help them keep their customers and their workforce safe? And for the last 6-8 months, we had thousands of phone calls and Zoom calls with our businesses to ensure that we are providing the service that they're asking us to provide, but we also there for them every step in the way. Third thing we did, we knew that COVID-19 response could not be an individual response. We needed to act as a team. We created the first virtual health department in North Texas, where we met every Friday with every health manager in North Texas, from Dallas to Fort Worth, Frisco to DeSoto. We met once every week. We changed information, tips, tools, and strategies to make sure that we all equipped to better serve our residents and our communities. And we understand that our response is not done yet. We still have to provide vaccination for our residents and our first responders. And we were able to get our first responder vaccinated, but we also right now we're working very closely to make sure that our long-term care facilities have access to the vaccine. And in the future, in March, then everybody above 65 years old hopefully will have access to it, and by end of the spring, we'll have access to the general public. I want to make sure that you know that we're working very hard to make sure that you have access to the vaccine in a timely manner.
Thank you, Luay. I appreciate all your efforts and the work of the entire community development team and all those associated with helping this community get through the COVID pandemic. You know, this year, as we prepared for 2020, one of the things that was overriding for us was potential budget implications from two things. Senate Bill 2, which had to do with property tax revenue caps, and Rule 3334, in which dealt with sales tax, destination versus origination. So when we went back to as far back as December of 2019, we were already working on what the reductions should be related to the sales tax. The sales tax reduction, if it goes into play on October of 21, will reduce our sales tax revenues by about 60%. Couple that with what Senate Bill 2 did regarding our property tax revenues, and we knew that we had to reduce our budget significantly as we prepare for 2021. And that's what we did in 2020. Well, by doing that in basically December and January and February of 2020, we were in a great position to know exactly what was in front of us. And along comes COVID. And with COVID, our organization had already been prepared from a budget standpoint of what the implications of what COVID could mean to us, because we had already made those decisions on how we were going to move forward with the budget. So the organization took it in stride, the council took it in stride, and we viewed it as just another opportunity to show the community what we can do given whatever pressures are added to us. So the combination of SB2, the rule, the sales tax rule together had us reducing our budget for 2020, the budget that we're in now, 2020-21, by nearly $9 million. And that's significant. And I can tell you the other communities around the state that hadn't been prepared because they weren't going to be facing the sales tax issue were really going into some real challenges. But we were able to face them head on. In doing so, we were able to still lower the tax rate just a tad. And we were able to still do our capital investments, our capital improvements, doing things in our parks and recreation department, making capital purchases. So we just got smarter and we got better at what we were doing. Another aspect for this past year, which was significant, is the adoption of the 2040 plan. So the council, through the community support, adopted the 2040 plan. And this year, in 2021, is the first year that we're actually implementing the work plan for 2040 in the 7 pillars. And why is that significant? Well, the plan, as you know, is, for those who participated, it's an aspirational plan. The 2030 was more a capital intensive plan in which we were building structures and building gathering places for our community. And the 2040 plan, it's how to build relationships. And so those pillars are put in place to do just that. This past year, we had a municipal election, and we have one new council member who was recently elected. And so that was something that was, while it was delayed in May and moved to November, it posed some challenges to us. But again, the community did a great job responding and great turnout, and the staff did a great job of supporting the community. Throughout the entire pandemic, one of the great things that happened is we were always communicating to our organization about what was happening, making sure we were transparent, telling them exactly what we did know and exactly what we didn't know. And we did the same with the community. We followed the CDC guidelines. We followed the instructions that we received from the governor and from the judge of Dallas County and Denton County. And throughout the entire time, it was always, how are we going to provide a full slate of services to our citizens? And I don't think we missed a beat. So throughout the year, one of the great things we did was try to be creative in how we would engage the community and to demonstrate how we build relationships. And so this past year, we did the drive-by parade in which our local car club and others used Denton Tap and got to show off their fantastic cars and had people come out and buy meals from our local restaurants and line the street and be able to eat and support our restaurants that way. We did a diners, driveways, and distance program so that our neighborhoods could come out. People can get out in their driveways and eat. Our police department would drive by, and our fire department would drive by and be able to say thank you for what you do in our community. So it's been a great year. It's been a great year of opportunity, that's for sure. And it's been a year that the challenge of COVID, the challenge of SB2, and the challenge of Rule 3334 all came together at one time. And I think our organization was made better. Our community actually got stronger because we learned more ways to serve in different ways, using technology, doing things a little bit differently than we've done in the past. So I'm looking forward to what happens next in 2021. And with that, Mayor, I'd like to turn it over back to you.
Thank you, Mike. You all can tell that 2020 was jam-packed with challenges, not only COVID, but many other things. And I really want to thank the staff as a whole for everything that you've done. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today on this virtual State of the City update. Stay safe, everyone.
Thanks, Mayor. You have a great day today.
As you can see, the state of our city remains strong. Yes, 2020 is a year that we will never forget. It is my hope that 2021 will give us all a fresh outlook as we slowly return to pre-pandemic normals. Many great things are in store for the city of Coppell, and as 2020 has showed us, we will adapt to change and we will continue to provide sound fiscal leadership. Let's look at our bright future and meet the challenges ahead together. Thank you all for watching.